This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll talk about some basic fundamentals related to approach for understanding or learning controlling module. So we are all aware in the controlling it is all about your cost or it is all about your overheads or expenses. Now before you start understanding the controlling, there are certain prerequisites that you must understand. First one is your cost center accounting. Everybody is aware that we have already worked on cost center accounting during our FI or during our basic accounting entry posting. When it comes to cost center accounting, you will be using the cost center only while you are posting any expense related GL account. When you are using any expense related GL account, you will be using cost center accounting. Now, in order to use a cost center, you need a GL account. You require a GL account to use a cost center. Now, this GL account will have to be converted into a cost element. You need a GL account. This GL account to be converted as a cost element. If you are able to convert or if you are able to create a GL account as a cost element, only then cost center can be utilized. Otherwise, you cannot use the cost center. Now, within the cost element, there are two types of cost element. Within the cost element, there are two types of cost element. One is your primary cost element. Second one is your secondary cost element. One is primary cost element and the other one is secondary cost element. Again, within the primary cost element, you have cost element and then you have revenue element. You have within the primary cost element, you have cost element, you have revenue element. When you're talking about cost element, this is all related to expense. When you're talking about revenue element, this is all related to income related GL account. If you're transferring cost to controlling module, that is based on the cost element. If you're transferring income to the controlling module, that is through revenue cost element or through revenue element. Now, when it comes to secondary cost element, there is no breakup within the secondary cost element. It is straightforward secondary cost element. Now, this is used only for internal posting within the controlling module, only to transfer from one object to another object. Majoritarily, you will be using secondary cost element without affecting your primary posting. Now, once you have a clarity here, you need to understand how cost elements are used in ECC. Now here you need to bring a point called ECC and then S4HANA. Here you need to bring a point called ECC and S4HANA, and here we need to talk about first point, cost elements. First point, cost elements in ECC, cost elements in S4HANA, meaning in ECC how we were creating a cost element, and in S4HANA system how we are creating a cost element. There is a change in the cost element creation between ECC system and in S4HANA system. In ECC, cost element is created in KA01, and in S4HANA system, cost element is created in FS00, meaning in ECC, cost element is part of controlling area. In S4HANA system, cost element is part of chart of account. In ECC, cost element is part of controlling area. In S4HANA system, it is part of cost element. That is why when we were working on the account groups in S4HANA system, if you remember, you created additional account group called secondary cost. We created additional account group called secondary cost because that is used for creating a secondary cost element. And whenever you wanted to create any GL account as a cost element, within FS00, you have two more additional categories like primary cost, non-operating cost, and then secondary cost. If you are using a primary cost or secondary cost, you are integrating a GL account with controlling module. The moment you select GL account type as primary or secondary, it is representing primary cost element GL account or secondary cost element GL account, which is directly connected to your controlling module. In the control data, you will get another tab enabled called controlling area setting. Within the controlling area setting in the control data, you will be able to allot or you will be able to assign cost element category. You will be able to assign cost element category. Similarly, when it comes to ECC, your GL account is different, cost element is different. In ECC, GL account is different, cost element is different. In ECC, to create a cost element, it is your FS00 plus KA01. FS00 and KA01 will give you the primary cost element. In S4HANA system, only FS00 will give you the cost element. 1 minute. Okay. In ECC system, FS00 plus KA01 will create the cost element. In S4HANA system, FS00 alone will create a cost element. Now, whenever you are creating a cost element, every cost element will have something called cost element category. There is something called cost element category. In ECC it is there, in S4HANA it is there. These are same. Between your ECC system and in S4HANA system, your cost element categories are same. There is no difference. The difference is only towards the creation of a cost element master. Once your cost element master is created, afterwards it is all one and the same. The way you are using an ECC system, the way you are using an S4HANA system is more or less the same. There is no much difference. You don't find any differences once your cost element is created in S4HANA system. Now, while creating a cost element category, this will give you a control point. When I say this will give you a control point, how your cost element is to be used. For what purpose you can use the cost element, you will be able to understand based on the cost element category, and according to the cost element category, you can restrict, you can control certain postings, certain usage in the controlling side. You have certain functionalities wherein based on the cost element category, you can control it. Now this will be helping you out understanding for what purpose each cost element is used. By looking at a cost element, you may not be able to understand what is this, but when you look at the cost element category, you can easily segregate, okay, this cost element is used for this purpose, this cost element is used for this purpose. Again, there will be a logic here. When you're talking about there will be a logic here, when you're creating a GL account, you're assigning for every GL account, we are assigning account group. Logic what we are using is first 4 digits of the account group is common in the GL account number. For example, if I'm talking about cash GL account, if I say cash GL account, I'll say account group 1120. Any GL account that I created related to cash account, I will be starting from 1120, probably 0001 likewise. Meaning, the moment I look at the GL account number, I will be able to understand which account group this GL account belongs to, what is that account group. By looking at that account group, I can know what is the nature of entries, what is the purpose of this accounting entry, how I am representing this account group, this account number in my financial. Just by looking at the account number, you will be able to understand different connecting points because it is created in a logical way. The moment you get to know the logic on what basis it is created, you will get to know so many points until your balance sheet. Otherwise, you will only see that 11200001 as cash GL account, but that is not the way to look at a GL account. That is not the way to understand the GL account in any project, because in any project, GL account number range or any number range for master data is clearly created based on a logic. It is created based on a logic. This logic is something that we need to understand. This logic is something which we need to understand. This is very, very important. Wherever you are working, whether you are in any implementation project or you are in any support project, this is mandatory. If you are in the implementation project, your senior team members, your solution architect, your project manager, lead or senior consultant, somebody will be proposing this logic as per the SAP best practices. You may not be able to provide the solutions, design the system, all these kind of things at your level of experience, but make sure you will be able to understand on what basis this is created at least. Though you may not be able to propose the solution, create the inputs and all, but at least whatever is already proposed, whatever is already implemented, created, by looking at that existing record, existing master, please make sure you are able to understand. because every number whatever you see in any project will have a logic behind it. That logic you need to try to catch. Similarly, when you look at the cost element category, under the primary cost element, under the secondary cost element, you have cost element categories. Under the primary cost element and under the secondary cost element, you will have cost element category. Each cost element category will have a purpose, will have a nature. We need to slowly understand how many cost element categories are available under primary cost element and how many cost element categories are available under secondary cost element. What is the each cost element category nature and why we will be using it. And according to the cost element category, your GL account number majoritarily begin for the secondary cost element exclusively, because primary cost element is straight away derived based on the GL account. Primary cost element category is derived based on the GL account, so you cannot connect cost element category with the GL account number, because your GL account number can be assigned to any cost element category under the primary, so it is not directly connected. So there may be some kind of a deviation, but for every GL account, the moment you look at it, you will be able to understand as the data is triggered from the FI to CO. For primary cost element, data triggering point is FI and it will be reposted or it will be transferred to controlling module. But when it comes to secondary cost element, it is triggering or it is originated from the within CO. When it is originated from within CO, you will have different categories like 40, 41, 42, different numbers are there. You need to make sure cost element category will be present in the secondary cost element number strictly. Any GL account number that you're creating under secondary cost element, make sure cost element category is part of the cost element. So that by looking at the GL account number related to secondary cost, because in S4HANA system, secondary cost element is also created as a GL account in FS00. Make sure the secondary cost element GL account will have the number called cost element category in it. Whatever the digit that you're taking, that must contain that cost element category number to identify what is the nature of this cost element category and for what purpose this cost element is used. Meaning, first you need to understand how cost elements are used, how cost elements are created and how these are used, what parameters, what attributes are available in cost element, first point. Second point, once you are able to create the cost element, there is something called cost object. There's something called cost object. As of now, we will be trying to understand cost object is a cost center. Slowly I'll introduce different cost object, purpose, nature, why we use it. At this moment, let us begin with cost center. Now, the moment you have a cost element is just a cost carrier. Cost element is just a cost carrier from one place to another place. For example, you are carrying the cost from finance to controlling or from controlling from one area to another area. It can be from FI to CO or within CO. It can be from FI to CO or within CO. You can transfer the cost or you can carry the cost. When you are transferring the cost, when you are carrying the cost with the help of a cost element to transfer the cost in a cost object. From FI, you are picking the cost and you are depositing the cost in one object in the controlling. That object in the controlling is nothing but cost object. At this moment, let us try to understand cost center. Meaning, whenever you are using any cost element requires a cost object. Cost element requires a cost object and cost object requires cost element. Without these two, there is no posting in SAP CO. Without these two, there is no posting in SAP CO. Normally in FI, what we are telling, without profit center, no accounting entry in FI. We are telling without profit center, no accounting entry in FI. Similarly, without cost object or without cost element, no entry in CO. When there is no cost element, when there is no cost object, there is no entry in the controlling. You must have a cost element. You also need to have a cost object to record any transaction in the controlling module. Now, assuming you are using cost object as cost center, to update anything in the cost center, you need to post something. You need to post something so that this data will be updated in the cost center. Assuming cost center for us is a cost object. You will be frequently using a cost object When you're talking about cost object, there are so many things. Cost center is one of the cost object. Slowly I'll introduce different cost object, purpose, why we use it, and how and what we need to understand with respect to that cost object. Now with respect to cost center, what you need is, you need basically a primary cost element. You basically need a primary cost element. When you're talking about a primary cost element, you're talking about expense related GL account, because here there is a term called cost. Since there is a term called cost element, you're talking about expense account here. Now cost center is typically used for expenses only. Cost center is typically used for expenses only, but there is no rule that cost center to be used only for the expenses. You can also use cost center for incomes. You can also use cost center for income, but in case if you want to use the cost center for income, in case if you want to use cost center for income, you need to make sure in place of cost element, you can use revenue element. There is a cost element, there is a revenue element. These two are part of your primary elements. Within primary, you can talk about primary cost element, which is used for expenses. Within that, you can call it as primary revenue element, which is used for income. Now, by default, whenever you create a cost center, cost center by default says, I will accept only expenses. By default, cost center says that it will accept only expenses. In case if you want cost center to capture income also, revenue also, you need to manually remove the logs, because cost center is logged for revenue posting by default. You need to go to cost center master. Under the control data tab, you need to remove the logs for the revenue posting. When you remove the log for the revenue posting, you can update cost plus revenue within the cost center. You can update cost and revenue within the cost center. Normally, we all will talk about, if I have different locations, if I have different branches, how I will capture my cost, how I will know whether I am making profit or loss from my department, from my branch, from my location. Now, in that case, what you can do, you can create a location as a cost center, you can create a branch as a cost center, you can create anything as a cost center, because there is no specific rule, there is no specific logic for a cost center. You can create anything as a cost center. Wherever you want to track the cost, monitor the cost, plan the cost, budget the cost, compare the cost, go ahead and create a cost center there. There is no hard rule for it. Now, if you want to look at, for example, you're running a business wherein you're operating in 25 locations. Now, for every location, you give a cost center. For every location, you give a cost center, assuming I have Hyderabad. Within the Hyderabad, let's say I have high tech city as a location. In high tech city, I have a business. And within the high tech city, I want to know, in this high tech city business, in this high tech city office, I would like to track what is my cost, what is my revenue, whether I am making profit or loss from this high tech city business. I can simply create a cost center here. I don't need to create a profit center, because my profit center may be created at a different level. I may be treating my plant, I may be treating my product or line of business, any other object as my profit center, but just to control my cost, just to analyze whether I'm making profit or loss from my P&L. So I don't need to capture my balance sheet asset and all. I will only be requiring to capture my P&L. In P&L, you get only cost and then the income, revenue plus cost. For revenue and cost, you can use cost center. What I'll do, I am simply going to look at my cost center. I will instruct my users, or I'll instruct my business, anything that is related to your business, whether you are making any sale, whether you are making any expenses whatsoever, any income that you are receiving, any expense that you are incurring, please make sure you update in your respective cost center. Update it in your respective cost center, so that at the end of the day, when you're generating the P&L and all, you can generate your P&L at your cost center level. When I say you can generate your P&L at your cost center level, this is going to provide only the cost and only the revenue that is generated by a cost center. The difference between the cost and then revenue will tell you whether you are making profit or you are making loss. whether you are making profit or loss, you will be able to know. This is only to track for your internal purpose. There is no external reporting requirement, there is no official reporting requirement to track at this level. This is completely your managerial decision or your internal reporting requirement. I would like to track at every location that I am operating whether my costs are within the control, okay, and my revenue is as expected or not. Now, here what you need to understand, whenever you're talking about monitoring the cost and controlling the cost, monitoring the revenue and increasing the revenue. You want to control the cost, you want to increase the revenue. And when you're looking at any financials, you have to understand what are the control points with respect to each nature of account. If I take my P&L, if you look at your P&L, for example, in P&L you have expenses, you have incomes. The ideal suggestion or the ideal expectation from any business is your expenses to go up. Your expenses should go up. Your expenses should come down. Your incomes should go up. Now, how you will know that my expenses are going up or going down, my income is going up or going down? How you will come to know? You will not know if I tell you that this is my April month P&L and in the April month this is my expense. You will not be able to take any decision unless you compare it. You will not be able to take any decision whether your expenses are going up or coming down. In short, whether your expenses are increasing or decreasing, you will be able to take a decision. You will be able to understand only when you do a comparison. Only when you do a comparison it is possible. When you're talking about comparison, how do I compare the data? When you're talking about comparison, how are you going to compare the data? You're talking about expenses. Okay, I'm looking at my P&L. I'm looking at an expense. I'm saying that this particular expense, let's say I'll put specific expense here. I'll say wages. I'll put April 2024. April 2024 wages. If I say this is 1500. Now, when I give you this data as part of the financials, you will not be able to take any decision because you are only able to see the April month cost is only 1500. You are able to see April month cost is 1500. You cannot take any decision. You cannot take any call based on this. Why? Because there is no comparison. Because there is no comparison, you cannot take any call here. You will say that this is not useful for me. You will simply tell no, this is not helpful, this is not useful because I am not able to take any decision here. Because I am not able to take any decision. Reason, you are able to see only a single month number. For you to take a decision, you need to compare the data. How you are going to compare the data? When you are talking about comparison, do you want to compare April month data with May month data or with March month data? Normally we don't compare with future month, you always compare with previous month. If you're talking about monthly report, current month data is always compared with previous month data. If I'm talking about April 2024, I'll be talking about March 2024. April month, if I have 1500, I would say that in March month it's only 1250. I'll say in March month your wages is only 1250, whereas in April month it has become 1500. Now the amount from here to here, I'll say impact. This is up. Impact is up. Impact up means this is a red light. Impact up in the expense means this is a red light. Not a good sign. This is not a good sign for your business because you're increasing the expenses. Now, whenever your cost is going up, you need to give a justification. Whenever your cost is going up, you need to give a justification stating why your cost is gone up. Now, how you are able to say that why your cost is gone up? Then there should be a justification. Your production is increased or the labor cost is increased, the labor is on strike or whatsoever. There will be a reason why the cost has gone up, because nobody will do anything as a surprise. Everything is well planned in every business. When I say everything is well planned in every business, For every department, for every branch and all, they will have a proper planning, proper budgeting at the beginning of the financial year. Everybody would have heard something called budgeting and planning. There is something called budgeting, there is something called planning. Overall, every company will have a budget. Overall, every company will have a budget based on the previous year or based on the historical data. Based on the previous year, based on the historical data, everybody will have a budget. Accordingly, for the next year or for the upcoming year, they will prepare the revised budget or they will prepare the updated budget wherein they will decide whether to increase or to decrease. Because you know what is your future plan for the next year, accordingly you are going to prepare. Similarly, the same case, if you take as an example, last time you went for a tour or last time you went for an outing, last time, let's say you went for a family outing, let's say you visited some place for 1 week. That is the first time that you traveled. You are not aware of certain things. You traveled, but you thought that it will be completed in 50,000, but you had to spend 70,000 there. You thought with your family, when you go out, your cost will be 50,000 or you estimated it will be around 50,000. But when you go there, you came to know that, okay, the rental is very high, hotel cost is more, the food is very expensive outside, or, kids are playing or any different kind of expenses you had incurred. Overall cost, you anticipated 50,000, but you ended up spending 70,000. Assuming this was your first experience. Assuming this was your first experience, you were new to it. So you accept, okay, I don't know, I did not plan accordingly, it's okay, I will spend it now. But next time, assuming maybe after a month, after 1 year, or after certain duration, you are planning for another trip. After some duration, you are planning for another trip. This time you are aware. This time you have an experience, because last time when I went, if I do not properly plan, I will suffer there. If I'm short of funds or if I'm unable to get what I wanted to get there, I will be in a trouble. So I need to make sure I'll plan everything well in advance. Then what you will do, you will increase or you will plan your budget accordingly. When I say you will plan your budget accordingly, you will see what is the cost of living there, what you will get, what you don't get, what is the stay for the hotel, whatsoever. Everything you will plan. You will overall put a budget first. Okay, I have around 85,000 with me now. I'll say that I have 85,000 with me now. Now I wanted to plan a 1 week trip with my family for 1 week. So my budget is 85,000. I wanted to go for a trip with my family for 7 days. Now I would have decided a location. Once I decide a location with my family trip, now what I'll do with this budget, my maximum amount is 85,000, because I'm not supposed to spend beyond 85,000. Within the 85,000, I need to plan my cost. Within the 85,000, I need to plan my cost. Now to travel, to complete this trip, you need to spend 85,000 in multiple areas. Like, you may have to spend for your transportation cost, your travel tickets and all. You may have to spend for your accommodation, food, and the other activities, entertainment activities, or whatsoever. Accordingly, you are going to segregate the cost. You will always make sure you will have surplus money with you. You will not fall deficit. When I say you will not fall deficit, you will always have surplus. 85,000, you plan in such a way that you will be able to close within 75,000. All inclusive, I'll say that I'll spend 75,000. I'll have, still savings of 10,000. This is how anybody will plan. Even you will also plan. You have 85,000, you are not going to plan for 100,000, or you're not going to plan for 90,000, because you don't want to fall short of funds. You don't want to fall short of funds, and there you don't want to face any difficulties asking somebody to give me additional money, borrowing money. This you do not want. Anybody do not want to get into this situation. Same thing happens with any organization. They will have budgets prepared at every department level or at every branch level, at every location level, whatever the way that they have segregated their operations. Accordingly, they will segregate a budget. For example, for finance, this is the budget. For logistics, this is the budget. For production, this is the budget. For administration, this is the budget. For sales, for purchasing, this is the budget. Now, accordingly, within the finance, you have different subcategories. Within the finance, you'll have different subcategories. That's where you talk about multiple cost centers there. You'll have multiple cost centers, and when you're creating a cost center, we all will create something called cost center standard hierarchy. We all will create something called cost center standard hierarchy. Based on the cost center standard hierarchy, you can decide, okay, this is my overall budget. from my overall budget how I can plan my cost. Then you are going to segregate in each cost center. For this activity, this is the amount. For this activity, this is the amount. From the budget, you are going to allocate, or you are going to make different planning. When you are doing a planning, your planning is always done at a two level, cost center and cost element combination. You are going to do a planning. You are going to do a planning at cost center and cost element level. Now, when you are talking about the expenses here, when you're talking about expenses here, let's say this is my expense. This is my expense. This is expense for the month of April. This is expense for the month of March. Now, when I do a comparison, my cost has gone up by 250. I'll say 250 has gone up. Now I need a justification why 250 was more. Why 250 was more? Now you need to understand why it was more. Now why you did not plan it actually. Last month it is only 1250. This month it is 1500. Why your cost has gone up? This is not a good sign. Your cost is going up means your profit is coming down. Cost going up indicates profit coming down. Cost going up indicates profit coming down. Cost coming down indicates profit going up. This will have a reverse connection. You're spending more, your profits are coming down. You're spending less, your profits are going up. You need to understand the logic's connections. Then only practically you can think, okay, why every company is more focused on the controlling. Everybody is talking about the CO and all. Because here you are all talking about the cost, controlling the cost. The name itself is controlling. You are controlling what? You are controlling your cost to maximize your profits. How you are controlling? You cannot just like that control wherever you want. You need to look at the actual business process, whether the cost is actually required here. If yes, no other go, you need to increase the cost. For you to increase the cost, you need to increase the budget there. You need to plan more for that particular expense. And for that to happen, you need to understand how your expenses are actually planned. At the beginning of the financial year, we all do this planning. At the beginning of the financial year, we will all be doing this planning at every organization based on the controlling area level. For every company code, there is a list of cost center. In every company code, there is a list of cost element. Your client will provide for this cost center. These are all the expenses that we have. Against this cost center, for this expense, this is the planned value. You can plan annually. You can also plan monthly. When I say you can plan annually, you can plan monthly. When you're planning annually, your annual plan is divided by 12 to get monthly plan. In short, we'll do all these things in the SAP. For example, my annual plan, I'd say 12,000 is my annual plan. And I'll say my monthly plan is flexible. My monthly plan, when I say I have to give 1 to 12 months plan, because when you're talking about annual, it's 1 year. This is 12,000 per year. So what system will do? It will simply do 12,000 divided by 12. 1,000 per month system will automatically bring as your monthly planned value if you do a annual planning called 12,000. But when it comes to monthly planning, you may be having variable values on a monthly basis. Let's say I may say 1,000 in one month, and I'll say only 800 in the other month, 750 in another month, something like that. But overall, it will be equivalent to 12,000 only. Overall, I will be spending 12,000, but I'm spreading this 12,000 in a different way. I'll be spreading this 12,000 in a different way based on the months. I may say that in certain month, it is my peak business season. Maybe from June to September, June to December, my business will be very high. I have to spend more money. Maybe in the other period, maybe the 3 months duration, the business is very dull. We don't have any expenses there. I'll plan less that month. Because my actual will be less, my plan also I'm going to do the less, because I'm planning according to my business. I'm planning because I know based on my past historical trend of my business, in these months I am going to have high volume of the business. Here my expenses may be more. I will be planning more here. On the other side, on selected months, my business will be low. I don't need to spend this much money in this particular month. I will do a less planning here so that I can utilize this month in the upcoming months. So why you have to do it? Because every month there is a planning, every month there is a planning, and every month whenever you prepare your financials, there is a comparison. Every month when you do a financial, there is a comparison. You have to do the comparison, whether you talk about your financial statement or you talk about your costing reports, whether you talk about your financial report or you talk about your costing report. When you're looking at the number, you're always focused on the comparative number. When I say you're always looking at the comparative number, for example, if I'm looking at my P&L here, assuming this is my P&L, if I look at my P&L, if I wanted to analyze, if I wanted to validate my P&L, what I wanted to get from my P&L, when I look at the P&L, the whole objective is to take a decision whether my business is performing good or not good. For me to understand whether my business is performing good or not good, first thing I will look at what is my expense this month, what is my expense last month. Okay, I spent my expenses, okay, agreed. Then what is my overall impact, whether my profit is increased or not? Because I'm spending more money, I assume that okay, I'm spending more money, I'm making more production, I'm making more sales, I'm getting more business. Now I ideally expect my profit also to go up. I ideally expect my profit also to go up because I'm seeing considerable increases in my expenses. My cost is increased constantly from last month to this month. Now I'm also expecting the similar growth in my profit. Whether I'm getting profit in my, whether I'm getting growth in my profit or not, I'm more interested at. When I look at it, if I'm not convinced with the growth that I see in the profit, I would definitely would like to come back and then analyze where my cost is going up, why I have spent more, but why there is no profit, why my profit has not gone up the way my cost is gone up, because I'm spending more, but why I'm not able to convert my expenses into revenue, why my cost is not converted into revenue. I need to understand. For that to understand, you are dependent on a lot of costing breakup, what happened, where you spent, how you spent, what expenses are recorded, how your revenue is generated, whether you are collecting the revenue, whether you are booking the revenue in the same month or not, how your cost is spent, you wanted to analyze. For you to analyze your cost and all, you are dependent on controlling module only. FI will not give you the breakup. Your finance or your FI module is not going to provide the breakup. You are completely dependent on CO. When I say you're completely dependent on CO, you need to understand how this is planned. Slowly we need to understand the different terminologies, different comparisons, how variances are coming, how the business will take a decision. If you're in the business position, if this is what is happening in your business, how you are going to treat it? Will you be okay with it or you will not be okay with it? Your cost is increasing, profit is not increasing, nobody is okay with it, but your profit is going up, then you're okay. Okay, I'm spending money, I'm getting profit, it's okay, I am convinced. But on the other side, you are spending money but you are not able to generate profit, you are not able to make revenues, then something is wrong. You would like to understand why or where things are going wrong. One minute. Okay, you'd like to understand where things are going wrong. For this to happen, you need to do a comparison. When you're doing the comparison from the P&L point of view, when you're talking about P&L, you're talking about P&L from, you're talking about P&L from accounting point of view. From the accounting point of view, if you look at this, you will find a report. And I'm not sure if anybody heard, there are two types of a financial statement. One is comparative financial statement, the other one is common size financial statement. In any organization, everybody will be using comparative financial statement. When I say comparative financial statement, we're all talking about financial statement. We're all talking about financial statement, which is giving you comparative figure. If you're talking about current month, you're talking about comparison with the last month. If you're talking about current year, you're talking about comparison with last year. Now, I think the server is not yet up. Let me show you, not from Fury. From GUI, let me try to open. And different points slowly we need to connect in order to understand in a conceptual way. This is your ECC. If I go to F.01, your financial statement. This is your financial statement. In short, this is your P&L balance sheet. This is in short your P&L balance sheet. If you look at your P&L balance sheet, this is your financial statement version. Give anything. Okay, give anything. And I wanted to do my P&L or balance sheet for the year 2025 for current month. Let's say the recent month that I would be looking at my financials is April month, because May is still going on. I want to do it for May to May, meaning May 2024 I wanted to do it. I wanted to compare my May figures with March figures. I wanted to compare my May figures with March figures. When I put this, system will give you the financials with a comparison of April month and then March month. It will give you March what is the amount, April what is the amount, what is the difference between these two. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the difference. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the difference. You cannot take any business decision whether your business is performing good or not good. How you will be able to take a call only when you see the comparative figure. Now that is why even when you look at the financial statement, P&L, balance sheet, you strictly have the comparison here. If you don't want the comparison, you need to leave it blank. But if you see, this comparison is mandatory, reporting is also mandatory. If you see, both are mandatory. It's not that I can only run for my current month. That is the basic fundamental of your accounting. When you look at any financial, it has to be comparative only. It cannot be single year, it cannot be single month. Nobody approves it. When you're taking any business decision, when you're looking at any financials, when you're reviewing at any financial of any organization, you always have to show the comparison. Only then you can say that my business is doing good or not good. You are making a profit, but compared to last month, what is your profit? Are you increasing your profits or decreasing your profit? Overall, you are at profit only, but whether your profits have shown any growth or not. For you to see this growth, you need to compare with last month, last quarter, last year, whatsoever. Depending on your requirement, you need to compare it. Similarly, within the controlling also, at the cost center level, you can compare the cost. When I say you can compare the cost, you can compare the cost. Now here you have the cost of actual and then plan. Let me go to Excel. You have something called actual cost. You also have something called planned cost. You have actual cost, you have planned cost. You can compare actual versus actual, or you can compare actual versus planned, or you can compare planned versus planned. Any way, any combination you can compare. Depending on your requirement, you can basically compare actual versus planned or actual versus actual. When I say actual versus actual, actual current month versus actual last month. When I'm talking about actual versus planned, actual current month versus planned current month. What was the planned cost for this month? What is the actual cost for this month? Whether I am spending as per my planning or am I exceeding my planning? Whether I'm exceeding my planning or my spending expenses are as per my planning, or is it below that or is it above that? If it is increasing, then you need to take a call. You need to increase the budget, because you will fall short of funds. You will not be able to spend any more because you will say that we don't have any budget now. Frequently you will hear that, especially when you're giving interviews, your HRs or somebody will tell, we don't have budget, our budget is maximum this much, because for that particular position they would have budgeted, they would have costed that this is the maximum package we can give for this particular position, because they are spending money towards a salary. To pay salary for a particular SAP FICO consultant who is having, let's say, around 5 years of experience, they may have a salary bucket, maximum 10 lakhs per annum we can give. Now anybody who is asking for 12 lakhs, they say that no, we don't have the budget, this is beyond our budget, we cannot afford, because management will not approve it. They know that this is all predefined at the beginning of the year itself. It is not that some exceptional case and all, that is very rare. These exceptions and all will be taken into consideration when there is no option left with you. When there is no option left with you, only then companies will take exceptional calls to approve the budget or to spend additional money. Else they say that you have to spend within the budget, get your work done, that's all. If this is the case, why you did not highlight or why you did not give a heads up at the beginning of the year? So it cannot be a sudden surprise in the middle of the year. or in any particular month, no business will accept it. No business will be entertaining these kind of things no matter what. They say that you need to spend within the budget. You need to spend within the budget. If it is required, we will see it in next year. We will plan it in next year. So that's the reason they say that, okay, we will give you this much salary, and next year we will say that, we will give you bonus or we will give you hike, whatsoever. You must have heard that first year we will give you this, next year we will increase the salary, or next year we will give other benefit, because they would have discussed with the business and all. They would have got some approval stating that, okay, this year it is not possible, next year we will see some benefit, we will do it. That's where the HR or somebody will tell you that next year we will do something, not this year, because this year there is no budget, they cannot increase it, no possibility, because these instructions, these decisions are taken by the management, not your HR, not your manager. These are all taken by the management board members. Once they take a decision, once they freeze that, no, this is not possible, it is not possible. If you want to leave the organization, leave the organization, we don't care. They'll bring another one, because there is no budget. When there is no budget, nobody will stop you, because they know that they cannot meet your expectations. They'll bring somebody who fits their expectation. It is all similar to what we are all aware, but it is just that we need to relate it practically. If you are able to relate it practically, you can easily connect it to the points. There is no rocket science in the controlling. It is just that you need to relate it with your real life situations. Then you will easily get the logic concept. It is exactly the same in any project. It is exactly the same. You will see the different cost center name, you will see the different process name, you will see the different product name, but end of the day logic concept is exactly the same. The way you are understanding with a simple basic fundamental example, you take any complicated tricky terminology example, put the same logic, apply your mind, same concept, same logic, you will get anything whatever the other person is talking, and you'll be able to convince anybody. Just make sure you are understanding things in a simple way and you're able to relate it. If you're able to relate it, if you're able to understand it, there is no difficulty. Else, what will happen? Whatever you're looking at it, you will get confused. Majoritarily, when you look at the controlling, you're all going to look at the different kind of examples and all, which you don't even understand the terminology only. Whatever the example people say or whatever the example you take, you don't even understand that example, that process and all. When you're not clear with the example, when you're not clear with the procedure and all, there's no point you get the concept. The objective is to get the logic, get the concept. Once you get the logic, once you are clear with the concept, you can work on any scenario. Let them talk any scenario, anything, you're going to just put a number there, because you're clear with the concept. What is happening, what you're doing, what you're producing, where you're spending the cost, how you're allocating, how you're distributing. Straight away put your calculations, you'll get the number. Let them put the requirement, you will tell the number. Okay, if this is the case, this is the number. You do it in SAP, you get the same number. The way you are working on the asset accounting, if you are able to understand that asset accounting, you will be able to understand your COPA product costing very easily. There's no rocket science, everything manually you can do it. Take a pen, paper, Excel sheet, you will be able to tell the number, what system is going to bring. The way if you put the asset value, asset
Ajay,
purchase date, asset depreciation in the Excel sheet, the way you can calculate the number in the similar way on the product costing and the COPA. If you get the proper logics, if you are clear with the concept, let your guy, let your production guy, let your organization tell a case that, we are producing this product, and for this, these are the raw material, these are the activities we are going to do. You just do a multiplication. Okay, to produce this product, you are going to procure this many material, each material is costing me this much, this material quantity multiplied by this quantity, this much. I am performing 3 activities, I am giving labor, electricity and all. This is my actual cost, this is my planned cost, and then any other allocations you are doing. If you do a total, this will be my product cost. And when you create a production order, and then when you perform the goods issue, goods receipt, activity confirmation, all this kind of a thing, when you settle the order, your material should receive the same number there. If it is not receiving the same number, then there are some variances. When there is a variance, then you are supposed to settle the order. What is the variance that you are getting? Why the variance is coming? So what is your actual cost? What is your planned cost? What is your target cost? All these things you need to understand. To understand all these things, basic fundamental onward, you need to slowly tune your mind, because these things will sound very tricky at the beginning. When I say these things will sound very tricky at the beginning, everything everywhere they say that cost only. Somebody will tell planned cost, somebody will tell actual cost, somebody will tell target cost, somebody will tell total cost. Everywhere it is cost. What is the difference? We need to slowly understand. How you need to understand? Not in a theoretical way, in a practical way, by taking some example. When I say in a practical way, by taking an example, I'll put some numbers slowly in the upcoming sessions. Once we reach to a stage where we will be able to understand this terminology, these calculations, I'll plot some simple example. I'll put simple example. I'll tell that this is our budget, this is our plan, this is what we are going to do it. We don't do anything in SAP, but I'll still make you understand what is product costing, how it will come. Even before we start the configuration, I'll make you understand how the numbers are coming. When we start the configuration, I'll create the same thing in the production order. We'll create the same process order, production order, whatsoever. We will create the materials and all for the same number. We will see that same value you're getting. The way you did for asset accounting, in the similar way you can do it. In the same way, if you are able to understand FICO in a conceptual way, your TRM, your FSCM, whatever we say, that is even more easy. Here also, at least you need to apply some logic and all in the controlling. You need to connect in a different way. But to understand the treasury and all, it's very simple. Because the moment you create it, all the numbers are automatically coming, your cash flows, all these things. You need to connect, you need to understand how these are coming. But again, that requires a different background, a different fundamental understanding that you have. It will not make any difference. When I say it will not make any difference, because these are all add-on points over and above your FICO. If you know the FICO, understanding of product costing, understanding of COPA, understanding of treasury, credit management, fund management, project system, whatsoever, you can easily work. You don't need any specific training for it. Because since we are all not aware how to learn this, we are all dependent on the training. But if you know the logical way, if you know the shortcuts, how to understand the business process, how to do it in SAP, you can do it on your own. It's all about understanding the examples, connecting it with simple cases. If you're able to do it, automatically you can crack any situation. You don't have to worry about it. Majority people will get scared when they've been assigned to a project where they need to work on the CO, where they need to work on any other thing within a 5 different area that you have not worked before. Don't get scared. Don't get scared. You need to understand the business process. If you look at it from SAP point of view, it is a big ocean. Don't see it from a SAP point of view. Always see it from a business point of view. From the overall functionality of SAP, they may not be using 50% also. No client will use even 50%. Because SAP is designed to meet the global level business requirement. If global level there are 100 scenarios, at your client level there may be 10-20 scenarios, or hardly 30-40-50 maximum. Meaning not even half of the functionality is utilized by any organization. If you look at your configuration, you go to SPRO path. Are we doing all the settings? No. But still you are able to meet your requirement. That is what you need to understand. When you are not going through the business process, when you are not going to the scenarios and all, you will not know which setting to be made. You do not know which setting not to be made. What is needed, what is not needed, you will never understand if you are going straight away based on the configuration document, material, or whatsoever. Your logic, your approach should be completely different if you wanted to understand. If you wanted to understand, if you wanted to gain confidence, your approach should be different. Else what will happen? You will depend on a document, you will look for configuration document, training material, training videos, different content. You will never understand no matter what. Everything is in front of you. Different training videos, different training documents, different material, different website and all. Still you will not be able to understand. Why? Because we do not know how to understand, we do not know how to proceed. That's the only reason. Otherwise, for you to understand FICO, don't you have the materials in the market? Don't you have the videos in the market? Don't you have content in the market? But why still we are not able to learn though everything is there? Because we do not know the way. But logic, that approach is what you are missing. Only that logic, that approach you need to get. Once you are clear with that approach, that logic, you can apply the same logic, same approach everywhere. Across any module in SAP, it is the same logic. Same basics will work, same thought process will work. Maybe 2-3 ways. One of the ways of 2 or 3 will give you the solution. You may be taking a little more time at the beginning, but yes, you will definitely crack anything. you will practically see the difference. That is required for you to gain confidence. Not that only when I practice I'll be able to get the confidence. That is a wrong approach. That is completely wrong approach. According to me, it is wrong. You're not supposed to refer any material, don't refer any videos, don't refer any content and all. Try to understand the business process. Tomorrow you have to work on the same approach. And when you are able to take simple example, when you are able to understand, then you will start thinking about a business process. Okay, if this is the requirement, how this is done, how SAP works. Then you start thinking in a different way. Then automatically you will get everything, how things are working, how you need to work. These things can be easily understood. Else, though you have everything, you will not understand anything. That's what majoritarily happens with most of the people. Okay, till here try to understand. Okay, so initially what I'll do, I'll make you feel comfortable with the different terminologies, small concepts in the controlling. Then slowly we will start working on the CO configuration in a dedicated company code. One company code I'll create only for the CO purpose. In that I don't post any FI entries and all. We will post basic FI entries to meet CO requirement, and then we will start creating controlling related configurations, and we will complete in a sequential order, so that whatever is required from your FICO point of view will be covered, and your product costing, COPA also we will complete. We will execute the basic scenarios of product costing, COPA. I'll make sure you will be able to understand, you can confidently manage in your project on your COPA and then product costing related objects. Okay, fine then. So let me stop this here today. We'll continue the remaining part in the next session.